I think it's a perfect time to start taking a look at the country and where it's at.
Many of those values that were established 200 years ago no longer seem to be important to people, or they've lost sight of those particular principles. And I think, yeah, I think for sure many of our problems are related to that, because those were important and they were principles that worked, and I think they still work. But when people lose sight of them, other forces come in and it causes disruption and unrest.
It's an appropriate time in history not to lose sight of where we started from. Maybe almost like a reemergence of those thoughts and a blending into current happenings in our country. I think it's important. I really do.
I think they had a lot of guts to get up and leave their families, maybe in some cases leave their possessions, and come over here with not much to start with, and, start a whole new life.
In coming over here, they tried to ensure that the reason that they had left their homeland would not reoccur in this country for their children.
I'm sure they were a group of people who were tremendously positive, because they would have to be if they were going to survive.
They were people who had a strong religious sense. There was a deep sense of spiritual values.
The kind of people that I believe founded the country were people who wanted to create a society that allowed people to progress based upon their own output, their own capability, their own skills.
By the middle of the 1700s, the American colonists, who were very hard-working and enterprising, were beginning to be competitive in British markets. Britain's answer was to restrict their trade. America supplied Britain with raw materials, and they had to buy the manufactured goods back from Great Britain. So in addition to that, they were being taxed with import duties and export duties. Well, the Americans considered themselves full British subjects. They resented this treatment, and also the fact that they had little or no voice in the British government. Their protests mounted until in 1775, fighting broke out between British troops and the colonists from Massachusetts.
What you actually had was a severe political mismanagement situation between the mother country and the American colonies. But now, concurrent with the situation, you had a coming together of dramatic ideas concerning the basic abilities and rights and potentials of man. And then you had a new land with few constrictions of government and very little, if any, oppression, and you had a sense of personal liberation. All of this came together in North America, and it got translated into easily understandable ideas by Tom Paine, who actually had tremendous popular following. And this translated into the Declaration of Independence, which put forth as basic assumptions for organization of a country for the first time in the history of man. Radical ideas that people have basic rights, that people had a native, inalienable right to pursue happiness, and making this a foundation of a nation. You can't imagine how earth-shattering that document was in its place and time. The acknowledgement of that basic ideal sent a liberating impulse across the planet. And it's what caused people to be drawn to this Constitution, to this land for 200 years. Just the fact that somebody said it.
And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
thousands of trained soldiers in uniform, and you have these raggedy guys with hardly any ammunition and just barely the clothes on their back, and their willingness to die for a principle.
It did appear at times as though Washington and his troops were going to be conquered. After all, Boston was occupied by the English troops, New York was occupied, Philadelphia was occupied, and Washington and his troops had to, in many cases, live off the land. I think the thing that perhaps carried us through was the courage and the vision of a few people who simply would not give up.